Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is first it's Thursday and it's already October 31st, so happy Halloween. And today's topic will be inking, and it'll be page 3, which is what this is. And just to get warmed up for today, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new. I sketch and post every day. I also start a 5-minute timer, which I'll begin now for those of you who want to just sketch for 5 minutes, and also longer. I'll just keep doing 5-minute sessions throughout the whole video. And yeah, let's begin by going over what this is. So I usually keep things kind of, the video sort of chronological, somewhat. So I'm working on a 3-page mini comic, as it turns out. It kind of evolved into that. And this is page 1. And I drew it in the sketchbook here. And this is a test mini comic. And this is page 1, which started off as sketching undead skeletons for spooky Halloween season. And then I ended up drawing, it ended up turning out to be a comic, and so I drew page 2, which yesterday, well, it wasn't yesterday actually, it was the other day, maybe a couple of days ago, where I completed this one. And then yesterday's video was this one, which is page 3. So you might want to check that out. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then there was another video I called my RPG origin story, which kind of let you know a bit about like how I got into role-playing games and how I created this character, and also the story that I'm working on, which is what the comic is kind of about. It's really just a test comic, so it's not really an actual storyline, but it's this character. And so I do all of these sketches in the sketchbook, and then I just scanned them in and printed them out for reference, which is convenient. So that's what I'm going to refer to. And I don't use reference. I mean, I do studies, but then when I draw, what I'm practicing and the way that I am, the direction that I'm going with my work is to just draw. I mean, I'll do studies though. It's just that when I'm working on, let's say, something like this, I don't want to be looking at reference. Although, if I do, like, stuff like this, like, that's my reference, is kind of my point. And so, yeah, like, I'll do studies, and I'll print my studies out, and then refer to them, if that makes sense. And that's just part of the, like, the journey that I'm on to tell my story of these characters and like the world that they're in. And comics is part of that, although I didn't really, like, I wasn't really thinking it would be a huge part of it. I actually want to write novels, but this is part of it because I have the ability to draw the comics and the illustrations. But it's a marathon. It's a lifelong thing. So So yeah, let's focus on this. Like I said, it's inking. So yesterday's video showed how I laid out this page in pencil, which the other pages I didn't even pencil them. I just started drawing and inking them, which I don't recommend unless you just want to have a challenge, because it is challenging to do that. But this one I laid out in pencil, and I'll go over sort of my thought process about like, because I know like the viewers of my videos I kind of rank them as beginner, intermediate, and advanced, so I'm kind of addressing all three types of artists. So definitely it would help to check out if you're interested, or if you just want to watch me ink this page. I mean, that's fine too. But there was a lot of information in the previous video. So that's 5 minutes. I'll start another 5-minute timer. And I basically took this panel, because it's a panel, but it's like breaking out of the panel. I was talking about how I wanted this particular panel to be the most interesting out of all the three, and of course even within 3 pages I could tell like I got better at doing this, better at like just drawing like a comic style, and also I penciled it so it's easier to ink. So yeah, check out the previous video. It's called Sketching Page 3. That's the one right before this one. And then so from where I ended up, so what happened was I stopped that video, and then I started working on it some more, like tightening up the details. And so I did another video just to add on to that, because I mentioned that from the pencil to this is a pretty big leap. And so with that in mind, if you need to like here's another panel. This is like the first panel. If you need to tighten up this pencil here, the sketch, then if you need to make it look more like that, then you can. Now that could be just because it would help you like draw it better or ink it better, or the other thing would be if someone else was going to ink it, then yeah, like you would want it to be more detailed for them if they need to ink it. But that's kind of like the old school way of doing it, to have someone else ink it. If you're the one penciling, as they call it, or just sketching it, and you're gonna ink it, you're gonna find out pretty quickly how much detail you need, and you probably don't need as much as like you'll what do I want to say, like you'll find like how much detail you need like pretty quickly. It's pretty intuitive is what I'm getting at. So I could, for example, pencil this more, but like then it's not as fun to ink, and it kind of takes away the spontaneity if I tell myself like too much. But with that said, let me I wanted to just kind of work overall. Like I wanted to get this to this level because I knew that this was the most interesting panel in the whole like mini comic, and so you can see where I just wanted to just make it just that much more exciting, even though it's still the same character. And I wouldn't do this constantly, like breaking out of the panel with like foreshortening, extreme perspective and stuff. You want to use it kind of sparingly. So with that said, let me just kind of start to sketch, and sometimes it's easier just to explain. So for example, if I'm sketching this and I'm the one gonna ink it, so on the other pages I said that I didn't even sketch, I just went in and just made stuff up, and that can be fun, but after a while it's sort of like the point of diminishing returns, where I did mention how drawing like that is it's a trick, is really what it is. Some people can do it easier than others, and it just kind of comes with practice. So I can just make stuff up, but what happens is, and you'll notice whenever people draw like that, it's not really that useful for comics, because it keeps looking different. So it works for like maybe an illustration, but not necessarily sequential art, because you need some consistency. Not every so that's 5 minutes. I'll start another 5-minute timer. What you're not wanting is every panel to be some unique illustration or like a unique character. You're wanting the character to be consistent, and the style to be consistent, and the storytelling to be the main thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna just do an illustration or like a cool looking picture, then like a one-off kind of picture, then yeah, you can just make stuff up. With that said, I'm just gonna part of this is just because I might just sketch for fun until I get bored of penciling, but I'm gonna keep it pretty loose, and because since I know like I'm the one inking it, I want to leave a lot of room for spontaneity, because I could actually just draw this like with ink but like I said, people are at different levels, so if you really need to put down almost every line, then go ahead, and then because you might be learning how to ink, for example, and so I'll kind of go over that. But then the other thing could be you already have good like pen control, but then maybe your values are the things that throw you off, like you're not sure where to make it like the darkest and like the lightest and all, and like the in-between. So that might be the thing that you figure out, because lighting is important. Because it's not just the lighting in this panel, but you kind of want the lighting to be consistent in the whole page. You don't want it to seem like there's just a bunch of random lights coming off of like in different directions. That's a big part of it too, because that also tells the story. Like another example could be, so in this panel, I'm not going to explain like everything, because once I actually ink everything, it'll be, I mean, you kind of want the story to be obvious without having to explain it. But in this one, so I've got the evil sorcerer here, and my point about the lighting is that his hand is kind of like this. It's that if the lighting for him is coming like kind of over here, then you kind of want like some difference for her, like the lighting, because that's also part of it. Which is, it's like in movies and stuff, if the lighting is not consistent, it can be confusing. So yeah, when I'm penciling, I keep it pretty loose, especially since I know I can make this up at like, I don't necessarily even have to pencil it in, then that just kind of gives me that much more flexibility with the penciling, where I'm just gonna have fun with it, because maybe something accidental. And it does help to first of all, it does help to ink when you have a sketch, because then you can think about like more detail and more like line quality. So there's that. When you're just drawing with a pen without like a sketch to go off of, it's really more about the spontaneity of it, or the definiteness of it. I had mentioned something about the Ninja Turtles in another video, and how I liked sort of the kind of the analog, or like the lo-fi vibe of it, the indie vibe of it. And so I ended up watching some videos from a long time ago about the creators, which is Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And like I didn't know like a whole lot, but it was interesting just to kind of see them. It was pretty nostalgic. But yeah, I was watching a video where I think Kevin Eastman was sketching like a Ninja Turtle. So that's 5 minutes. Start another one. I'll get to some inking. I won't detail this whole page. But and yeah, he was just kind of like drawing, because he was drawing with a Sharpie. And he would just draw it. But I mean, the Ninja Turtles are pretty simple shapes, and also he created them, so they can kind of look like whatever, and you can kind of get away with a lot. And it was a pretty basic sketch, but maybe it seemed kind of impressive just because he was just making it up like on the spot without sketching it out or anything. So let me explain the layout a little bit, because I did show the thumbnail, which again, just check out like the previous video. But so this is what I ended up going with. Was she's facing the evil sorcerer. Evil sorcerer is preparing to blast evil magic, which he does here. So he's over here breaking out of this panel, but like in a smaller way. And then she's dodging, and then she's breaking out of this panel. And then I decided to add, and again, this is just an experiment. I'm not saying this is the best layout ever, like sequence, but and again, there's no dialogue, so I'm just kind of making up the story. So basically, she's going for that amulet thing, and so here's like a close-up of that, extreme close-up. And then here she cut the amulet off of the sorcerer. I'm about to catch it and land on this platform here. And then I decided to add kind of, since this is a 3-page, I needed kind of the like one last panel, like resolution. So I initially drew, I was using my hand as reference, and since I'm left-handed, I drew her right hand, but like, so I had this, and I liked it, it looked good. But then I was looking at it and I thought, oh yeah, she's holding the sword with her right hand because she's right-handed. So I had to redraw this. So that's the sequence. And I just made up this sword. But yeah, I would do, if I were to have reference, I would just, like, I would add it to this kind of page and just look off of that. And I just think, well, for something like this, you'll have a more consistent look. But if you're just doing whatever you want, I mean, like sketching or just wanting to draw and paint something, I mean, just obviously do it however you want. These are just really my own tips, reminders to myself of how to get kind of the result that I like. So with this panel, yeah, like if I get to, especially since I have this to look at, which is kind of why I did it like this, I pretty much will use that as the reference, and you can decide like how much detail or to put in or to leave out. I wouldn't make it all the same level of detail, but I would make it all like fit. So on this page, I make a zoom in because I like to zoom in. So for me, this level of detail is fine, and I might not make this as detailed as that anyway, as the as that. There's like the detail on that face. So from the previous video, I just went and started inking, and I'll just kind of show you what I did. But like I said, the treatment is a little different depending on the panel. So I'm going in with like a fine liner here, like a thin pen, although on the other pages I went with a medium, and that's how I drew with these, and you can see the difference. Like, it does look more subtle if you start like this. That's 5 minutes, by the way. So what I usually do, or at least with this page, to get this look, that's 5 minutes. I'll start another one. So just to get like that look versus, let's say, so again, these I actually just drew without a sketch. I just drew out of my head. This one I had a sketch, and I just intentionally wanted it to look kind of like this, which is nice. I mean, it's a nice look. So that's kind of how that worked. And so by doing it this way, I leave myself some room to ink, to have some spontaneity to the ink. And then whenever I feel like I've kind of figured out like the look pretty well, like I'll erase the pencil, because one of the benefits of having the sketch is that you can kind of see like the how you might do the hatching or like the inking. So anyway, this is just one style is what I'm trying to get at. Like the other way would be like, again, just drew with a different pen, a medium point, and without a sketch, just making it up. And I would say that doing it this way is probably kind of an intermediate level. Like, I think the basic level would be getting a drawing. Like, you might have to do a lot of construction. So when I'm drawing this in pencil, I don't have to do a lot of construction lines but I did with like the other one, for example, like in the previous video, you can see where to get it to look good. And this is not to say that this is like 100% correct, like perspective or anything, but it just looks good. I had to use construction lines too. And again, if this were just a character, like a one-off character that I wasn't trying to put into a comic and make it look like the same character and tell a story, then yeah, I probably could just make up that foreshortened drawing, like, because it's just one picture. But yeah, I mean, if you're wanting it to look consistent, you probably have to sketch it out. I mean, especially if you're going to do several pages, you don't want to stress yourself out. But if you're just sketching for fun, then yeah, sometimes it's good to just make stuff up. So this is, to me, the kind of a low pressure way of inking this, where I'm just gonna put in some lines, and then when I erase it, then I'll kind of see like where I need to fill in the gaps. And then on top of that, I don't want this panel to like compete with the other, so there's that too, which is kind of like the composition of it. So I'll do another 5 minutes. This one's almost up. I feel like 30 minutes is pretty good, or 20 to 30. So part of why I'm like, not only for the look, but also I wanted to show you, like, if you were to ink it like this, it gives you some room to fix the inking. So that's why I call it like intermediate, because you still have to have a good drawing. But like, see, notice how I'm kind of adjusting things here, like her shoulder. So that's 5 minutes. I'll start another one and kind of wrap this up. But where's my ruler? Oh. But yeah, I probably won't really do a video to show the rest of the page. I'll just finish it, and I mean, I might show the result, but and move on, because it's a new month tomorrow, so that'll be good. Also, when I'm inking like this would be called the first pass of inking, and I like to leave it kind of incomplete because, again, I like to just make up stuff as I'm inking anyway. So if I do this, then it makes it pretty easy to me. Then it just becomes a matter of not messing up the like what's good, like the good drawing. And that's why penciling is good, because that's where you're going to get the good drawing from. It's a little bit more, it's safer. Also, I wouldn't necessarily, so I use 3 different pens, like a really thin one, a medium point one, and then this is like the brush. Like, I could just use this for the whole thing, or like any of them. I mean, you could just use like the one pen. For this particular comic, I'm using like all 3 of them. And then with that said, I wouldn't necessarily like make this look like that. Like, you could actually leave some of this open. So it's good to just, so definitely take your time. I have other videos that kind of talk about how to draw a face and then ink it, specifically for like my OCs and stuff. But when you're here, like, don't rush this part. I mean, if there's a part to not rush, it would be like this kind of thing, because you're wanting to finish the picture. So give it time and give it room to breathe. Yeah, like don't force it. Like, have fun with it, because let me zoom out here. Because all the hard work is done. Like, the drawing is there. Like, I know what the characters look like. I know how I'm gonna draw it. I know the sequence, and that's just because this is a comic. But it could just be like one picture. It could be just one panel. But the point is that, like, the hard part is getting the drawing to look correctly, like, to begin with. And I mean, I feel like I pretty much have laid out, so to speak, since this is a layout, but like the steps kind of involved to have confidence and to know what you're doing, so that you know where you're at. Like, so for example, if you're still struggling with your line work, because when you ink, it should look, I mean, it can look different ways. Like, you can see how this could be wobbly, but it's still deliberate. So with ink, it's another level of deliberateness. Whereas with pencil, maybe you're still working out, like you can still map out the shapes and map out like the lighting. And so part of that has to do with, since this is a comic, if this guy is using his energy, then I probably want that part to be bright. And so I'll just kind of like accent the area around. You can use a pencil to sort of scribble in, like I talked about scribbling in, like different things, and just come up with like interesting shapes. And then you would take this as far as, so for example, with her, like I wanted to be pretty definite because I knew that it was a tricky pose and there was a lot of detail and stuff, and so I didn't want to have to think about the drawing part. I just wanted to think about the inking and like getting the values correct. So that's 5 minutes, and I'm gonna wrap up this video. So this is probably the rest of the time I'm just gonna use what I have here and then like the other pages, and also like the character sheet, the reference sheet, to kind of finish up this third page. And from here, I've already mentioned that I wanted to do kind of like a prologue comic or whatever else, like who knows, but I also suggested doing like a mini comic like this if you have OCs, because it really, it taught me a lot to do this. And and yeah, that'll be it for today. Thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine, and thanks for supporting the channel. And if you like this kind of stuff, yeah, just support the channel and I appreciate it. So until next time, keep on sketching.